I will always find it difficult to present a book because a book is itself self-explanatory, and you don't present a book. A book should be read, first of all. But I consider it as a form of paving the way for people to enter the book and to benefit from it with some kind of guidance. The book, of course, has several chapters, but I think one of the most interesting features in the book is the fact that it's a blended learning course book. It's not a book, it's not a novel, it's not a technical manual, but it is a book that you can be used by university professors to teach their students how to enter the field of research and how to be successful in research, and especially how to avoid mishaps, how to avoid difficulties. I've had experience with a lot of students who started research and regretted it. People who were supposed to finish in 3 years. In my generation, I have one colleague who beats all the records, and I think he should be in the Guinness Book of Records. He did it in 17 years. And it's unbelievable that somebody can persevere for 17 years. But still, now the law says 3 years. Very often people finish in 4 or 5, sometimes 6. And currently in Ain Shaq, I don't know about other places, but in Ain Shaq we have a back room full of files of students who haven't been able to finish their PhD thesis. So the main feature is that it should be considered as a course book, and it should be followed as if you are going to take your driving license. You know, when you take your driving license, you sit down, there are a number of questions, and you practice the questions with the answers. And the most important thing is that for each, if you live in the countryside and you're learning how to drive, or if you're driving a truck, it's not the same as if you were driving a small car, not the same as if you were driving a motorcycle. So if you're entering research, you should also be aware of what kind of research you're going to conduct. The first chapter, of course, addresses the question of types of research. But I think the main feature, some colleagues, mainly from foreign universities, criticized this feature, saying, why limit yourself to the humanities and to letters? Why only social sciences, humanities, and letters? I must admit that because the first time I thought of writing this book, back in 2019, when I first sat down, I sat with a question. I had problems with my research students, questions that I didn't know how to answer myself, and seeking answers. I try to seek answers from the perspectives. I put myself in the shoes of a research student or of a young researcher, because there are lots of young professors who do wonderful teaching, but when it comes to research, there are difficulties. There are things that could easily be avoided. It's like avoiding accidents when to keep the comparison with driving license. So the course book should be considered as a kind of roadmap. The other interesting feature is the fact that it's blended learning. I'll move forward to explain what I mean by blended learning. Ramadan, the first day, you decide to make a smoothie, you decide to make a juice with fruit. And you pick the fruit of the season or whatever is available. But you have to decide what kind of fruit juice you are going to make. The first thing, you have to decide whether it's going to be with orange or with milk. The second thing, whether you're going to put sugar in it or not. And for that, you have to ask your audience. So your readership, people who are going to use your research, you have to keep them in mind. What kind of reader am I addressing with what I'm going to propose to them? And then you have the first day you put 2 bananas, 1 apple, some avocado, and maybe some nuts. The second day you say, well, the nuts weren't very good. Your sister didn't like with nuts. Someone said, well, let's try with almonds. The third day you try with dates. Then at the end, you reach the best formula. So the idea is for blended, if you are the future of teaching, and I don't think anyone in our university can neglect the fact that the future of learning can only be blended learning. You can't teach with paper and whiteboard anymore. Whiteboard or blackboard are still necessary. I was in Bulgaria recently. They're still using chalk. We still use chalk. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. If you're going to write a grammar example on the board or a mathematical equation, you need to write it and erase and write again and so on. So the idea is, in your mind, you have to think of the right blend for your teaching. You decide. So the right blend is never fully fledged until you die. So the idea I started, sometimes I sit down and I think of myself and I say, where do I come from? I come from a purely literary background. In fact, when I was in the UK to do my postgraduate studies, people used to wonder why a young Moroccan from a not poor family, but a moderately lower social background is investing in a very expensive, which seems not so cheap in comparison 30 years ago. So expensive. Why would a Moroccan be interested in studying literature at such a high financial cost? And I got my degree and I came back to Morocco because I knew there were at the time opening of new English departments. There were only 2 or 3 in Morocco. Casablanca was newly opened, so I joined the family. And I started teaching all kinds of things, depending on what the market decided. And I think the best lesson that I learned came from the private sector. I know that people often criticize the private sector. Why why is this? But believe me, when you are in the private sector, you're obliged to innovate. It's either, in the United States, they have the saying, publish or perish. If you are a university professor, every year you have to publish, and you have to, at the end of the year, you have to publish strong content. And at the beginning of the year, in September, you have to come to the course market. There's no register in Tarq Jdida and you are students in economics. No. Professors stand in an open market and they market their courses. They have to defend their course. They have to market, they have to say what is good about their course, and they have to attract students. They don't attract enough students, the course is closed, goodbye, we don't have clients for you. I know that the word client is not always very nice, but today you can't say that clinics don't have clients and schools don't have clients, but we need to find the right formula. So in 2015, I decided that it was somehow a bit difficult to continue teaching the same old thing. And I decided to move a little bit towards technology. I took a course, a very simple course, to technology-assisted learning. And from that time, from 2015 to 2020, I worked and traveled quite a bit around the world. With what I learned, I shared with colleagues in, and one important thing, مطرب الحي لا يطرب. Nul n'est prince dansant dans ses contrées. The university never invited me to give any presentation. Nobody asked me or asked what my name was. I went to Bulgaria, to Romania, to Croatia, to Italy, to Portugal, to Spain, to France. so many places, and I learned as much as I did share in workshops and seminars. But what I learned most is when the COVID crisis came, I had the right tools. At the time, I had just moved to Darwazza, and I had my little office with my cameras and everything. The pandemic started on the 20th. My class on the 21st was on. I think I may have been, I don't know. My only competitor was the minister, who declared that 2 weeks later, he declared that we have covered 90% of the needs of the Moroccan territory in universities. Congratulations. But I objectively had my setup, I had my camera, I had my microphones, I had everything, and my class ran normally. And from that time, I continued working, but not turning my back to literature, not turning my back to poetry, but I started a new marriage with our research lab in Ain Shok, which is purely linguistics. We try to give it a little spice by saying linguistics and discourse analysis, but discourse analysis in literature is one thing, discourse analysis in linguistics is another thing. They can be combined they have common denominators, but discourse analysis, as I knew it, was to do with Shakespeare and Mark Twain and Nathaniel Hawthorne, etc. And then I came to the conclusion that after the pandemic, I realized, because classes that I usually did in 2 hours, online they took 3 to 4 hours. And it was impossible. Objectively speaking, it was impossible to do 4 hours, but less was impossible. So luckily, the blend kept my audience interested. And we had some funny moments where sometimes I saw my student's mother running in the background with her foulard, and sometimes the father saying, catch the dog. The blend became my main interest. Also, what I found interesting, because as I said, the incentive to write the book was a problem. So I was answering a problem. I was there to write a book to find answers to specific questions. It's a book for Moroccan university context. And that's another criticism from my international colleagues. They say, why limited? I said, once it was over, once it was published and reviewed and accepted, I said, now we will work in teams. So I have now colleagues from Cluj-Napoca in Romania and a colleague from Porto in Portugal, working on an international version. Not international, open to all, but I insisted that we should keep it to social sciences, humanities, and letters. And then we can open work with colleagues, maybe in Ain Shok, Faculty of Science, if they are humble enough to accept my offer. I haven't had any offer from internally yet, but I'm open to colleagues who would be interested in sitting down and writing a version which is meant for science students. You are now in the School of Science. Maybe you can join the project, or you can find, and we can be a team of two. We can be a team of 2, or we can be a team of 5. I don't mind. It's much easier. It took me from 2019 to 2024 to finish the book, and 1 sabbatical year. Last year I didn't teach. I worked 10 hours a day until my back hurt me. So I had to sit 10 hours a day. And you're going to tell me, why did you do the accounts? Why 10 hours? Because when you do research, if you don't watch the clock, 1 year is like 1 hour. You have to watch the clock ticking away. And when you are doing research, it ticks away very quickly. When you have 3 years, it's like 3 hours. The other thing is the book, as you can see, various types of research. When you read the book, You will see introductions, how to choose a topic, accessing materials and references, outlining and monitoring research. This is what I mean. If you don't monitor, if you don't keep an eye on your balance sheet in the bank, you go bankrupt. If you don't watch your balance time, the 3 years really runs very quickly. Now, if we start with how to choose a topic. I remember when I was a child, my grandmother, Allah yarhamha, when we had guests, she would say, go to the backyard and catch the brown chicken. She didn't say, go and bring me one chicken. She said, go and fetch me the brown chicken. And I would go and run and catch the brown chicken. What was the lesson? The lesson, she said, when I asked her, she said, if you run after all the chicken, you catch none. If you run after one, it'll get tired and you will catch it. If you run after all of them, you'll get tired and you will catch nothing. That's it. When you do research, it is very important that you catch the brown chicken before you start. You really need to make sure that the question that you are addressing, it makes it so much easier. I've seen a friend, honestly, I'm not exaggerating, I've seen a friend who worked on James Joyce and who went mad. He went to a mental institution. He became obsessed with James Joyce because he was not trying to answer one question. A colleague in Einstock did his PhD in 17 years. It's incredible. And every year I see students. So the answer is catch the brown chicken. How do we do it? The most important thing is if you start in your field, and this is something that I do with my undergraduate students. I tell them, if you want to give a presentation in 15 minutes, it's not a PhD thesis that you have to write in 3 years and that you have to defend in the presence of a jury, etc., etc. 15 minutes is one thing, and a research project is another thing. So when you choose your topic, you need to, first of all, do brainstorming. And the technique is, I explain it very well and in a very simple manner, like driving a car. How to choose a topic, you do your brainstorming, and now there are AI tools that will help you do your brainstorming. AI tools that will shake your head until the best apples fall. And then you pick. And then you have road mapping, you have idea mapping, you have mind mapping. When you have your ideas because in brainstorming, we don't select. We just, everything is down. When we mind map, we select. And once we have selected the area, the specific area where we imagine someone tells me, I'm doing research in marketing. You can have 3 lifetimes and you don't finish your research on marketing. You tell me, I'm doing marketing about fast fashion. You need 2 lifetimes to do that. You tell me, I'm doing about fast fashion in England. You need 200 years to do that. You go to a topic that needs an answer and that needs a specific answer. You don't try to solve the worries of humanity. You need to address a particular topic. So this is about choosing a topic. Materials and references. I think if you want to buy a T-shirt and you go direct to Morocco Mall, you're stupid. And if you want to buy a T-shirt and you go direct to Qur'a or Saht Sragna, you're stupid. My father used to say, Allah yarhamu, طلع مساري ورجع شاري. Don't buy. When you go shopping, go window shopping first. And when you have seen it all, then knowing where to shop. Clearly, people who shop for social sciences are not the same as shopping for science or shopping for law or shopping for literature. And the second thing, a lot of people waste, it's incredible, a lot of people still waste their time with Google. They think they can find the right answer. Luckily today, as I explained in this chapter, there are AI tools that will help you build, but I'll tell you what is the shortcoming of AI bibliographies, because you can ask AI to give you bibliography. When you shop in JSTOR and when you shop in Google Scholar, for example, it's midway between my old-fashioned way when I was at university. I used to go to the paper catalog. I open a drawer and I go, Shakespeare, 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 Shakespeare. 300 references about Shakespeare, and then I find the... Now I take notes, and then I go, Hamlet, and then I go, readings of... When I have my list of references, let's say I have 50 references that I want from the library. The physical contact in a library is life-changing. When you have physical contact with references, your life changes. Why? The reference is B365. B360. I find B365. B366. I look at it and say, oh, this is interesting too. Every time I look for a book, I end up looking at the two neighbors. So in your bibliography, you found 50, you end up borrowing. We were lucky that the university used to allow us to borrow 60 books to keep per semester. You keep in your room, you keep 60 books, easy access, and you can return them whenever you like for the whole semester. The next, as I said, in between, when you do your shopping in EBSCO or JSTOR or Google Scholar, you also see the neighbors. And when you use the filters, how many times the book or the article has been cited, who wrote the book, etc. That's better than when Herfia, AI, gives you a long list of references, and you sit down and you can ask AI to give you abstracts or summaries of the main ideas in each article, etc. Eating slowly allows your organism to absorb the nutrients much better than when you eat quickly. So I think finding references is also a life-saving experience. If you know where to go shopping, don't go to the mall, don't go to the Bghellaf, go to all of them and then decide which is the most suitable to you. Outlining and monitoring a research project. Just a little anecdote. In my introduction to what is research, I included a little section, a funny definition of what research is. Because when I tell my mother what research is, and when I tell my daughter what research is, and when I tell my students what research is, they imagine three different things. So I also put the gentleman at the bottom is what people usually imagine as the right type of researcher. But we don't imagine someone studying al-Mutanabbi as a researcher, someone studying Imam Shafi'i as a researcher. Although sometimes studying Imam Shafi'i is much more head-breaking than studying molecules. One important thing about choosing a topic, and this is really a crucial element that most people tend to neglect. You have to decide what is your objective. What I see currently is usually when people do research, they say, I ask my students, and the answer straightforward. Why do you say, no, I would like to become a university professor, and they tell me a lot of good things about myself. They make me happy, and it doesn't sell it. But it doesn't sell it. I would like to become a university professor. I don't think that's the real objective of, because when they become university professor, why are you doing research? Because I have a promotion in 2 years. And why? Because I would like to become a blah blah. Why are you traveling all the way to England to participate in the conference? Because I have to get at least 2 documents and 3 participation and that. So it boils down to calculations of not research. And I'm not saying it's not a legitimate objective. It is a very legitimate objective. But when we ask the real question of what is research question is to address a problem, the irt. Today, the irt is a big headache in the Islamic world. And people address it from, they address it from stiff positions. We need young people like you to do research about the problem of, some people say it's totally wrong. If you listen to people who do Islamic economics, you will be amazed how it is logical that the way it's done in the, but maybe I am saying it because I am a Muslim and I'm not 100% objective. That's the difficulty we have in the humanities. People in science, people in marketing, people in economics maybe don't have this worry. But our worry in social sciences is that we study society, and society is us. In the humanities, we study psychology, and psychology is the mind studying the mind. So objectivity is very difficult to come by. You do research to address a question, to fill a gap, to something that's truly necessary. But there is also another aspect that people neglect, and that's stakeholders and funding organizations. If Fulbright finances my study, I will go to hell for them. A lot of students don't even ask. And in recent years, the trend was that some, I will not name them, but some funding organizations gave, opted for what we call positive discrimination. They gave 70% scholarships to women and 30 to men. That's, we can explain it in many ways and find that it's right, but it's not right. We finance research. We don't finance gender. We finance who is going to come with the best answer. And at the same time, I will tell you that in the English department, for many years, as far as I can remember, women perform much better than men. I have my statistics, I keep my own statistics, my little statistics for personal reasons. Women perform better than girls, perform better than boys. But I don't know how useful that information is. Maybe one day it will become useful. So when you choose your research topic, also be aware of who is financing it and why. There are a lot of opportunities for finance. China now is giving incredible scholarship opportunities. Recently, Hungary giving scholarships to Moroccan, Bulgaria. My own students, Croatia, giving scholarships to Moroccan students. I'm not talking about America and UK. The other thing, if you consider there is an effort to be made, chevening as a scholarship, the presence of chevening in Morocco, maybe 6 or 7 years ago, was 5 scholarships per year for Morocco for all specializations. Can you imagine? All specializations and postgraduate, not undergraduate. You have to have a BA at least to go to the UK to study. It's a quite important scholarship. It covers everything. It's about 500,000 dirhams a year, which even if your parents were rich, they would think twice before giving you 500,000 dirhams a year. Fulbright is also an important, but chevening was 5 for Morocco, and it's impossible. Everybody was watching. I was in a lucky position. I just bumped into the ambassador of the UK in the ceremony, and I asked to meet him in person later on. And I went to him with a solid defense for the Moroccan case. I said, it's not normal. Egypt has 250 chevening scholarships. And of course, it's the historical background. The relations between Egypt and UK are not the same. But I don't know if France is offering us, because of the relationship between Morocco and France is similar to, is France offering us as many scholarships as that? And we worked hard, because he was a diplomat, he was not a minister of finance. But we worked hard to defend the Moroccan case, and now it has reached 15, at least 3 times. But what makes it difficult is that even when the scholarships are on, not everybody applies. People think negatively. They say, 5, غير كامل. It's not. They will never. The right mind is to say, 5. I will be the first one. I'll be the first on the list. I don't care. Always think of yourself as among the winners. Why think of yourself among anything else? The tools that are available thanks to AI today, there are repetitive tasks, and that's essentially what makes AI a useful opportunity. We can't consider AI as an enemy. AI can only be your ally. It can only open doors that you can't open manually on your own. AI will open 100 doors at once. If you take time to open those doors manually, it will take you incredible time, and you won't be able to do it on time. So in the book, there are descriptions of every single tool that will help you in your research. And I will finish with this. My book doesn't exist in paper format, because when I finished writing it, I just happened to be broke. The year I usually, like most professors, I work at the university and I do some part-time jobs to make the 2 ends of the month meet. I have kids at school, and I have. But the year I sat to write a book, I devoted all my time. So I didn't have any savings. I sent the book to the printing house. They said 47,000 dirhams, which is for 5 years of hard work. Let's say 50,000 dirhams. 10,000 dirhams a year is really, it's non-existent. It's really futile. It's nothing. And I was approached by someone from our university, to say the truth, and they offered 8,000 dirhams. So I was left with where to find 39,000 dirhams, which I didn't have. So the book hasn't come out in paper format, but luckily the blended format is just as good, and it's been read by a lot of people so far. And as you can see, I'll tell you about another good feature, this one. It's been read by, this is the list of the people who reviewed the book. And it's interesting to look at their background, where they are. The variety is interesting. Their fields of interest is interesting. And the interesting thing is that some of them did include their book review in their university publications. what is one of the interesting things about the last chapter in the book? In fact, the book has the book's strength is at the same time its weakness. Why? Because it's like I think we call it moving sand. It can easily be absorbed and die. The interesting thing about the book is, as I said, it's blended approach. But the blended approach means that there are a lot of videos, there is a lot of digital content, and videos and digital content is easily outdated. I'm sure in another 6 or 10 months, the book came out in April 24, April 25. Many parts of the book will be useless and will need, but that keeps it alive. At the same time, it keeps it alive. The other advantage is that in chapter 8, the book presents massive open online courses that I know that our university, I don't know about other universities, I know that in Twitter they are well organized, but I don't know about our university. The pre-research prerequisites, there are courses that you need to cover. I'm very skeptical about the way these courses are done. In America, they are very strict about pre-research classwork. It's one of them is research methodology. You can't sit down to drive a car if you don't learn how to drive a car. You're going to cause a lot of accidents. You're the first at risk. So I think the MOOCs I have selected, as I said, are very, very useful. There are a number of courses, complete courses, that initiate you to what research is. But they probably become outdated after a year or so, but because the course owners update the content. And I think that's at the same, as I said, as much as it is a weakness, it is an advantage. Morocco, 0.7 for research. Singapore, 2. And Israel, nearly 5%. So no wonder that in the middle of 22 Arab countries, Israel is the strongest. It's research. There's no other answer. Research is what makes you strong. Research. But again, what I'm worried about is that at the end of every year, the Shanghai ranking, the whatever ranking, Marseille ranking, it's not a question of ranking. It's how much you achieve. It's how much. It's the number of patents that are registered every year. It's the innovation. It's the spirit of innovation in all fields, not in mathematics only, not in electronics, not in electricity, but even in literature. If you don't understand, you can't live without poetry. You can't live without books. You can't live without. I'm sure many of us here watch Netflix. Yeah, you can attest to the level of the quality of art that we have reached. The quality or lack of quality. Because the algorithm studying people's tastes produces what they look for. No, we need to stand outside the box and think we will do research that is useful to us. Also, in terms, I'll finish with this. When you see, I'm sure many of you are members of your professors' research labs. Yes, everyone is a member of. Your role when you take our position, when we take our shoes, the role is to make sure that the way labs are created and the way they are run is not like the bullet shots. People consider the labs and consider the research groups as if they were their shots. The lab director considers himself or herself a boss. And they carry the stamp in their pocket. Muqata'a. Doesn't work that way. If you want to do research, for example, we have in a small faculty like Anshaq, we have a number of labs. And when the renewal date comes, there's always a lot of negotiations going on, who's going to join which group, etc. And people try as if it were elections for the United States presidency. Calm down. The answer is very simple. If you are in a small institution, you count the number of people to make the university happy and to make the ministry happy, because there are compartments, there are pigeonholes, and in each pigeonhole you have to have four members, and then you create a lab, and 3 labs you create a center, and 3 centers you create a national. Take all the members, divide them by 4, create fictitious, and let people work. The essential idea is for people to sit down and work. 10 hours a day is a personal experience, and honestly, some colleagues who helped me with the design, with the technical design and the graphic design, they wanted to kill me at the end. They said, Mara, stop. You will never stop. So quality has a price. Thank you very much. One last thing is, my group officially in Anshaq has 4 members. It's called Technology Assisted Learning. But I just took the leisure of creating the same group on LinkedIn, and I called it the same name, Digital Learning, Innovation, Education, and Lifelong Learner Autonomy. And I added the word International Research Group. If you look at the group, it has 310 members now, not 4. The official are 4, but it has more than 300 people, and from different parts of the world. And anyone from Singapore or from Miami can post an idea and say, we would like to organize an online conference, and you don't waste tea and coffee break time money. Most scientific events in Morocco turn into judge and food. So keep it sober, keep it simple, and seek to achieve results. Thank you very much.